All right, shepherd's pie. I mean, great stuff, but you know what? I always thought that shepherd's pie needed something a little extra. So a couple of years ago, I started experimenting around, and I, instead of using hamburger or something like that in there, I started using big chunks of beef or pork, even lamb, anything that'll do in here, anything that's great in here. And then put cheddar cheese in the mashed potato topping, and that just adds a flavor sensation. Also, if you look on top here, there's kind of a brown glazing, even more Parmesan cheese. This is fantastic. You know, have it with a glass of red wine, or have it with a glass of sherry. Be real British. Fantastic stuff. Let's go to the kitchen and make some right now. All right, first we're going to make the base layer, the filling of our shepherd's pie. And for that, we've got a few ingredients here. First of all, the meat. Now this is 2 pounds or 900 grams of any meat of your choice. Actually, you could use beef, you could use lamb. And in my case, because I love the flavor, I'm using pork. And they're cut into small bite-sized pieces. So basically about a half a bite-sized piece. Over here, we have a 1/4 cup of butter. And we're gonna get that started melting right now. It takes a little while to melt, so we're gonna put the butter in a large pot. We're gonna turn that on to medium heat. All right, while that's cooking, let's get everything else ready here. So, to go with the meat, in a large bowl, we have these ingredients. We have flour, a 1/4 cup of flour, 2 tablespoons of paprika, 1 teaspoon of salt, 1 teaspoon of pepper. So let's put them in the bowl here. So in goes the flour, in goes the paprika, the pepper, and the salt. And we're just going to mix those together. All right, once I mix that together, in goes the meat. And we're going to toss that meat in there to coat it with everything. First, let's get these over here a little bit. So we have here 1 cup of wine, red wine. 1 15-ounce can of crushed or chopped tomatoes. 2 onions chopped. 2 medium-large carrots chopped. And then 1 tablespoon of dried sage. Those are all going to go in a little bit later. So let's get that butter melting nicely. All right, I'm going to just toss this around. We also want to coat the meat with the flour mixture. Just toss that, keep tossing it around. Basically try to get an even coating. It's not going to all be perfectly coated, but basically we want all the flour mixture adhere just the meat somewhere. All right, look at that, that's starting to coat up nicely already. Okay, now my butter is melting. Starting to brown already a bit, so there we go, about melted. I think we're a little bit above medium right now. In goes the meat. That was one of those studio lights, just took a crash. All right, in goes the meat. And what we're gonna do with that meat is just brown it for about 10 minutes. So just every once in a while, stir it around. Let's get it somewhat evenly browned. All right, I'll see you in about 10 minutes. All right, that's been cooking for about 10 minutes. We got some nice browning on there. It doesn't have to be perfectly brown. What we're doing is we're browning the meat a bit, and we're cooking off the raw taste of the flour, so it's going to be perfect. All right, now some of it's going to be a little stuck to the bottom. That's fine, because what we're going to do now, remember we had here 1 cup of red wine, so that goes in. And then just deglaze the bottom. Just go around, you know, spatula like this. You just scrape off the bottom. The red wine loosens it, and you just scrape it off. And there we go. It's looking good. That's already starting to make a bit of a gravy. Okay. Now what we do, remember we have here 1 15-ounce can of tomatoes. That's going in. And we have 2 onions chopped, 2 carrots chopped. Pull that onion out. And in goes the tablespoon of dried sage. All we do now, mix it in there. And what we're going to do now is bring this up to a simmer. And then once it starts simmering, simmer it for 1.5 hours. Put the lid on and just simmer it away for 1.5 hours. Now what we're going to do is we're going to come back a little bit later, and while this is simmering, we can be preparing the mashed potato top. So we're going to let that go for a while, and during that last half hour or so, we're going to prep the mashed potatoes. So I'll see you in a while. Alright, so this has been cooking for, about an hour, a little over an hour. Just give it, every once in a while, just give it a stir and scrape off the bottom. And these potatoes have been cooking in salted water for 20 minutes. So again, that's 2 pounds or 900 grams of potatoes. So let's turn that off. We're going to take these out now and drain them in the colander. So I've got the colander sitting here in the sink. Drain the potatoes. We'll keep that pot, it's nice and hot. What we're going to do first is just going to toss the potatoes right in there. All right, just toss the butter. Funny looking potatoes. Toss that butter in there so it can start melting. And then, that won't be hot, so we can grab that like this. Then, in go the potatoes. And we've got our potato masher. So, just kind of give them a preliminary mash here with that butter. And now, I'm going to add in the cream, the milk. Let's get the salt in there too. And then we're going to proceed to mash this quite nicely. Now at first this is going to look really soupy and you're going to think, how is that ever going to make a topping? Trust me, it will. Alright, so we've added half a cup of cream. That's the heavy cream, 35%. We've added a half a cup of milk, half a cup of butter cut into little pieces so it melts easy. And now we're going to put in 1 ounce or 28 grams of Parmesan cheese grated. Mix that around in there a bit. And in goes 1 egg beaten. That's what's going to help with thicken up. All right, now just stir it around a bit. Everything looks pretty mashed, so we don't need to mash it much anymore. Just going to combine it. Make sure everything's combined. Now this could sit for a while. It's hot, really hot. It's not going to cool down that quick. So you can leave this sitting here for a while we finish cooking the filling. All right. Well, that filling's got about 20 minutes to go. So come back in 20 minutes and we're going to assemble our shepherd's pie. Right, that's been cooking for an hour and a half. Smelling very good in here. Now what we have here is gotten quite nice and thick, gravy-ish. We want it thicker. So first of all, I'm just going to scrape everything off the bottom. It brings in more flavor. And then, what I want to do is I want to thicken this up a little bit, so I'm going to add a little bit of cornstarch. I'm going to take a small bowl. We have here 1 tablespoon of cornstarch. And I've got a 1/4 cup of red wine. So you don't want to add it in all at once. Cornstarch has to be kind of dissolved carefully, otherwise it just becomes lumpy. So putting a little bit in there, and then I'm just mixing it to dissolve it. Now that's looking pretty good, so we can add more of the red wine. Just make sure we got everything dissolved in. All right, in goes the rest of the red wine. And now what we're going to do with that is we're going to add it into our filling. And cook that for about another 5 minutes, just to get it nice and thick. And at this point, as we're cooking it, we're going to be stirring it a little bit more often. It doesn't have to be all the time, but just every once in a while, you know, frequently stir this for the next 5 minutes. Make sure it gets nice and thick. And then it's going to go in here. So let's come back in 5 minutes and finish this off. So that's been bubbling away for about another 5 minutes and thickened up a bit. That's looking good. So let's kill the heat, and we'll just take this and pour it into this 13 by 9 casserole dish. So in it goes. All right, that's looking good. Spread that out a bit. Now it's still quite runny. It's going to set up more as it's baking, and I find that it even sets up better if you let it cool down after you bring it out of the oven, just a little bit. Not too cold, but just, you know, edible temperature, and at that point it gets even a little bit thicker. Right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to let that sit for a minute and just kind of cool just a little bit before we add the potato. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to make the topping. And for the topping, what we have here is 2 eggs beaten, 2 tablespoons of milk, and again, an ounce or 28 grams of Parmesan cheese grated. So let's just put into a bit of a bigger bowl. We'll put the egg, we'll add in the milk. And I'll use something like a fork or a small spoon to mix that up. Mix in the Parmesan cheese. That's going to go on the very top. And just give us a lovely kind of a brown crust on top. A little cheesiness to it. Okay, that's all ready. Now, we're going to add the potatoes. That's cooled down enough we can touch it. So, just using a clean spatula now, I want to kind of spread this across. You got to do this kind of gently because that bottom, the filling, is still quite soft, and you don't want it to sink into the filling. So you just kind of spread it out evenly all over the place. You know, it sinks in a little bit around the edges is fine, but we don't want it sinking deep down in. All right, let's get a bit more over there. All right, now I'm just going to use my spatula to kind of spread that around a little bit. Okay. You won't ever always get, you can, I mean, if you're very careful, you can pour it along the outside edges and get it absolutely perfect. I don't worry about perfect, I worry about delicious, so that's good enough. Our oven's ready. Perfect. So now, we're just going to spread this topping over top. Just kind of pour it around everywhere. And again, you can just use my fork to kind of spread it out to the edges here. All right. Now, that oven is at 375 degrees Fahrenheit or 190 degrees Celsius. This is going to go into the oven for 45 minutes. Now, you can make this ahead of time. You can cook this up the day before, make up your potatoes, put it all like this, throw it in the refrigerator or something like that, and then put it in the oven the next day. In that case, go about 50-55 minutes. Give it that little bit of extra time because it's cold when it goes in the oven. This is hot, so 45 minutes is going to be perfect. All right, see you in 45 minutes. Here it is, just came out of the oven, bubbling hot. There's your shepherd's pie. This is something I would not eat right away. It would absolutely sear your tongue on this. Also, it's very hard to serve up right now. The best thing is to always let it sit for about 15-20 minutes. It'll still be good and hot. It'll be a lot easier to serve up without souping all over the place. It just kind of, as it sits here, it tends to solidify a little bit. And just perfect for serving up. Great time to be making a salad, sitting at the table, putting out some drinks and stuff like that. Some red wine goes very nicely with this. So enjoy this beefy, cheesy shepherd's pie. Right, so that's been sitting for a while now, cooling down a bit. It's not bubbling hot anymore, but it's just perfect for serving. So now, let's cut a piece out of here. And there we go. A nice serving of beefy, cheesy shepherd's pie. Let's just have some of that. Look at that. Underneath here, you've got the meat, and then you got the potato on top. Oh yeah. That's fantastic. Nice thing is too, this actually tastes really good cold. I always have the leftovers and have them for lunch or something like that. Fantastic. So enjoy. Enjoy making some of this beefy, cheesy shepherd's pie. Now, if you go to the link appearing on the screen, you can get the free printable recipe for beefy, cheesy shepherd's pie on our website. So go print out the recipe, have fun making and eating this treat, and make cooking fun again with Kuma's Kitchen.